Hi guys, thanks for tuning in to another video on forgotten weapons. I'm Ian, and I'm here today at the Rock Island Auction House taking a look at some of the cool guns coming up for sale in their February 2015 regional auction. And, well, one jumped out at me because it's something not a lot of people would recognize. You probably recognize this pistol and the guy who designed it. This, of course, is a Borchardt. It was designed by Hugo Borchardt in Germany and put on the market in 1893 as what's generally considered the first commercially successful self-loading pistol. It then, a few years later, got an overhaul by Georg Luger and became the Luger automatic pistol, which is one of the most iconic pistols of all time. Well, before Borchardt designed this pistol, he was actually over here in the United States designing, among other things, this rifle for the Sharps Rifle Company. Borchardt was born in Germany in 1844, and he emigrated to the US in 1860, right at the beginning of the US Civil War. He stayed here for a while. He was very interested in gunsmithing, and by the time he was 28, he was actually superintendent of a gun shop, the Pioneer Breech-Loading Firearms Company. Just a couple years later, he became foreman at the Singer Sewing Machine Company, which we think of, it wasn't so much he was interested in sewing machines as he was interested in manufacturing and industrial technology. And the Singer Company that's what they did. They manufactured mechanical goods. And just a couple years after that, 1876, he took over as superintendent of the Sharps Rifle Company. Clearly, he was an extremely talented and intelligent engineer and firearms designer. Now, at this period, when he took over the Sharps Company, they weren't in real good shape. The problem was they were making all single-shot rifles, and the market was starting to turn towards repeating rifles, especially the lever actions made by Winchester and John Browning. Sharps' one last attempt at retaining a chunk of the market and staying in business was the Sharps-Borchardt rifle. It was first put on the market in 1878 as the model 1878. It's a single-shot 45-70, and they initially attempted to use it to get military contracts. So most of the guns that were produced were like this in a military configuration, full stock, about a 30-inch or 32-inch barrel, military-style sights, etc. They are a lever action or a falling block firearm. Pull the lever down, drops the block, load a cartridge, pulling the lever back, locks the breech, and you're ready to fire. Interestingly, Borchardt's design, not surprisingly, Borchardt's design was technically very astute. It was ahead of its time. It was very modern. Even today, these are remarkably good guns. And unfortunately, the problem was they were a little too far ahead of their time. The commercial market failed to like the Sharps-Borchardt. It didn't have a real recognizable appearance. It didn't have a hammer that a lot of people were used to. This is actually a striker-fired gun. What we see today as very clean lines looked kind of odd and alien in the late 1870s, early 1880s. As a result, about 22,000 of these guns were made. By 1881, the income and the profit from them wasn't sufficient to keep the Sharps Company afloat, and Sharps ended up going out of business in 1881. At that time, Borchardt left the US. He returned to his original home of Germany, where he would stay for the rest of his life, designed the C93, and eventually died in 1924. So what I want to do today is take a little bit of a closer look at the Sharps-Borchardt here, and see how it looks and how it works, and what it was good for and what it didn't do so well. So let's bring the camera back and take a closer look. So like I said, the Borchardt is a lever action gun. When we pull the lever down here, we drop the block. At that point, you can see the chamber is open. Slide a cartridge in there. Standard cartridge for these was 45-70. They did attempt to get some military contracts with this. Never worked out with the federal government, although they did sell a number of them to China, as well as the state militias of South Carolina, Louisiana, and Michigan. That wasn't enough to garner any real significant number of sales, though. At any rate, as a result, these were mostly chambered for the 45-70 cartridge. When they were sold as sporting rifles, you could get different stock and barrel configurations, and you could also get different calibers chambered. Pushing the lever back, of course, closes the breech block. There is a striker inside this block. Among other things, it's notable for using coil springs in an era when flat springs were still quite a bit more common. It had a very short lock time, meaning that the delay from when you pulled the trigger to when the cartridge actually fired, when the firing pin hit the cartridge, was very short. With a hammered-fired gun, you'd have to wait for the hammer, which was relatively heavy, to accelerate through its arc of travel and hit the firing pin. With a striker-fired gun like this, since the striker was very light, it accelerated much faster. This wasn't really so much of an issue for the military, but these guns later on really became appreciated by the Schützen community of very high-end target shooters. They really liked the short lock time, because when you're firing offhand at long range, that actually makes a difference. An interesting element to these guns is the safety down here. See, this is sort of trigger-shaped. In order to disengage the safety and make the rifle ready, I have to pull that back. Makes a nice crisp snap. You then have a fairly short and crisp trigger pull. Interestingly, this is something we think of only on modern guns, but that safety automatically engages when you cycle the action. You see it just closed there. So every time I unload the gun, I have to disengage the safety. Show you that one more time. Right there, the safety engages. Now it's ready to fire. Very easy safety to manipulate. The rear sight here is a typical military style. We have this leaf graduated for various ranges once we flip the sight up. As with many guns of this type, this sight is a bit loose. So it didn't do the Sharps company or Borchardt a whole lot of good. But after Sharps was out of business, like I said, these really developed an appreciation in the Schützen community. And a lot of them were sporterized at the time by high-end professional gunsmiths who would improve the triggers, cut down the stocks, often rebarrel them for different cartridges, and really turn them into high-end sporting rifles. So a lot of the ones that you will find on the market may have had some of that sort of work done. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you learned something new about Hugo Borchardt that you may not have known before. If you're interested, both this Borchardt pistol and a couple others, and also this Sharps-Borchardt rifle, are available for sale in the upcoming auction here at Rock Island. If you take a look in the description below, you'll find a link to the catalog pages for each of these guns. You can check out their detailed pictures, and if you'd like to add these to your own personal collection, place a bid. Thanks for watching, guys.